Logan, it's week 2, which means our first game at home. Head coach Dan Quinn joins us to talk all things New York Giants.
And we're heading to the film room, look at what they did week 1 and how they can use that to beat the Giants.
And lastly, we're talking keys to a victory. How we get that home W against the New York Giants.
All that and more
on the Game Plan. Coach, good to see you again. We are approaching your first home game with the Commanders. What are your expectations for your first home game when we take on the New York Giants?
You know, early on in the week, you don't want to think about all the way, 4 or 5 days from now, but it has sunk in some, so internally about the opportunity and the history. And so to have the first home game also be a division game, that's a big deal, man. So these two organizations have been going at it for a really long time. And so to be on the side of that, to go dig in, and I know the history behind it. So, man, I'd say I'm already pumped. So if there's another level past that one, that's where I'll be living.
I mean, I always think of when I was playing that the NFL game was it's so specific, but it is different for you though. Like the idea that we were at home in front of the fans for the first time, get your juices going a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I honestly, at a level, felt that about in the preseason. That was my first time. I've been in the stadium before, but on the other side. And so to be on our sideline, come out of our tunnel and, feel the energy for it and what I know is going to happen between the team and the city, I know what that will be. And so, this weekend's the start of that.
And it's not just the start of that for you, it's the start of that for our rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, his first time in front of his fans at the crib. What can fans expect to see from him in week 2?
I think they can expect to see somebody that absolutely is going for it as a competitor. That's number one, top of the pile. If you've been around him for a practice for any amount of time, you can feel that. And then the second thing is, man, can this guy really process it? He can play the position excellently. And so his decision making to make sure he's going with the ball to the right spot, making the right decisions, he has that. He's got that factor to him. So I think what our fans will see is a guy that can absolutely rip it and makes great decisions with the football. And ultimately, that's winning football, and there's going to be a lot of that with him.
Coach, you said something about his processing there, and Shane Bowen's defense is a little bit simpler, at least to my eye. They run cover 6, little quarters, cover 2. Is that helpful for a young guy, or is that's an NFL defense that's hard work either way?
I think it's hard work either way. Yeah. And the reason I say that, Logan, is also from that experience, I would call them a game plan defense. I'm going to try to take this player away. I'm going to try to do something different. So there could be some unscouted looks, things that they want to do to, for instance, if he's got more scramble abilities, is there a spy? Is there a person that they want to take, the top receiver Terry out? How do they manipulate that? So the good news, staff-wise, Jaden, they're able to adjust quickly. And not every game goes according to how you think it's going to look. This would be one of those cases that they're going to try to do what they think's best that game for that day, and we'll be able to adjust quickly. That's what good teams do. That's what good coaches do, and we will find the way. If there has to be an adjustment, we'll go attack that too.
And Coach, week 1 we got a glimpse of that dynamic duo, Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. How can those two help take the pressure off of Jaden in week 2?
I think in a lot of ways, the things that you want to be able to count on as a quarterback in protection, to know that the right people are getting blocked. If they're bringing an extra player, whether it's the offensive line or the running backs, and you saw these guys step up to make the contact. The second thing is, if there's a downfield route that's covered, or there's they want to take away the deep play, and now you have the ability to check the ball down to an Austin Eckler, and it can go for 30 yards. It's not the design of what the play was, but knowing if I get the ball in the hands of my playmakers, there will be plays to be made. And so I think that's a great example, knowing that just got to throw the ball down the field doesn't mean an explosive play is not happening. It's just another play to go get it down the field. And so I think a lot of times of offensive runs and completions. And so if you keep hitting on those things, eventually your stuff's going to go. More plays, more ops at it. And so that to me is a big stat in football.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things about the Giants defense, I think that's interesting, and every defense in the NFL is like this. They've got a really stout front, specifically Dexter Lawrence. So how do you handle a guy like that seems to be able to create pressure on first and second down, but also stop the run too? And he just seems like such a unique, maybe the second best defensive player in the division. I mean, he's very, very dominant.
He is dominant, and they're unique because he plays big, he plays strong, but he also has pass rush to him.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you may see a nose tackle that was just a first, second down player. That is not Dexter Lawrence. He's an all-down player, and so they got size. And then the other thing, Logan, real speed and pass rush ability out on the edge with the addition of Burns to them. So size inside, speed outside.
So what do you think of those two guys, Burns and Thibodeau? I mean, they're guys that, have been, Burns is, I don't know if he's ever reached that kind of peak elite pass rusher, but has a lot of juice, and Thibodeau's growing. Like, I know you coached D-line. How do you feel about those guys when you watch them on film?
I think when you add pieces like that to Thibodeau, now when there's one that you have to stop, you can chip, you can slide,
right.
You can go. But when you add a second player who adds unique things to them, that makes it much more difficult. From your standpoint, think about like an offense to say, this receiver and this receiver, that makes it way more challenging than one player to go take away. So when you have two rushers that have real energy, real skill, real speed, now you have to be more creative to make sure that you're taking care of the people that you need to take care of on certain plays. So on a defensive side, you want that, where you can find matchups to go. On the offensive side, you want to make sure you can handle those things, as you're going down the line.
And Coach, week one, if you don't mind, we move over to the defense real quick. Week one was a true test.
This guy over here.
Always offensive questions. I had to make sure because I know you're a defensive guy. So, Coach, week one was a true test for our defense. Sure. And you've talked about making some improvements going into week two. What improvements do you look to see from our defense going against the New York Giants?
And I think it won't be something that you'll measure on a stat sheet. So the best defenses, I can hear them before I see them. And by that, I mean there's pre-snap communication that's going to take place of plays, of alerts, of things that can come, just constant talking, constant movement. And so in our first lap together, it wasn't at a level that would be acceptable for us from a communication standpoint. So I want to see that get ramped up. When you're able to do that, it allows more speed to take over, more physicality. So I would say the tackling and the communication would be two things that I really want to see us ramp up. We've showed plenty of it in the preseason. You do have to go through the hard fights. You don't like to, but you have to go through sometimes performances like that to establish how you want to play and your identity. And I think we'll see a noticeable difference in week two with that group.
Coach, that's something that's, I think, so interesting is the communication. Because every good defensive player that I've ever played with, they always mention that. How do you build that? Is that something that you bring guys in who are good communicators, or you say we as coaches can help cultivate that skill set in this group, for example?
I think it's a little bit of both, but it is the job of the coaches to draw it out of them. And I think Bobby Wagner may be a perfect example of that from Ken Norton. And so coming in, they didn't think he would be somebody that would use the green dot and be able to communicate as a rookie. And Ken was the one, he was the champion, said absolutely not. He'll do it. And he'll get there. And so he was the one that pushed it to say, no, he can handle it. He'll be there. And so that hasn't changed from his rookie year on, but you do have to push it. And sometimes it's easier, Brian, at practice. I'm talking, and in your first game you might, is it still okay to talk in the same way? And so this first lap together, the communication wasn't at a level that we would deem as acceptable for us. And so I anticipate that improving, which allows the speed and the play factor and the physicality to also ramp up because of that.
And Coach, the head coach for the Giants throws a lot of wrinkles. Every time we see him, he throws something that we've never seen on tape before. How do you prepare for those unscouted looks in a game?
Yeah, and you have to have some rules that you just follow. And you're right about that with Brian. He's an excellent play caller. He really is. He has been for a long time. He's had huge success doing it. And so he also will try to find some nuances, some new looks, and that's up to our own defense also to have a few wrinkles that they haven't seen that are unscouted in the way. So that goes on both sides of the ball, and you have to adjust in game to the different looks and featuring the players in the right spots. I think that's, to me, like the whole art of the coaching is not just all people are created equal. What can they do, and how do we feature them into those roles? Yeah,
that's really interesting. Because I always think of it from an offensive perspective. Oh, we can put those wrinkles in, we'll be all right. But the defense is always coming with something too, a different fastball. You talked about Dayball. What makes him innovative? What makes a good play caller in your estimation? Because it's one of those things where it's so subjective and people don't know. But in your thought, this guy's tough to call a game against.
I think the toughest guys are one that there's balance. you know, where there's run and pass that goes with it, because if you're all one or all the other, you can load a box to play the run or play really loose to play in the pass game. But having balance is one. People that can attack the entire field. And so that shot's way down the field where they can let one rip to say, you better, you know that we're going to try to attack that way and laterally, whether that's through the run game or out to the flat. So he has the ability to attack it down the field and laterally. So you have to defend the whole field. And then the last piece is, how do they feature these unique players, you know, for the guy who has the speed or who can catch out of the backfield, or those are the things that I think make for a really good play caller. And then can they make some plays look alike? You know, early in the game it was a zone, the next one came as a play pass. Started as this, ended as that. And so those, to me, are the ones that build layers on layers and think ahead. Okay, I may have had a run that only went for 2 yards, but the play pass that's going to go on the next one may go for 25 yards.
And Coach, not to give it too much of the game plan, but Daniel Jones was sacked 5 times last week. How can our defense exploit that?
Well, I think a lot of them happen outside the pocket. And this is a really effective quarterback that gets on the move. You'll hear us use the word play above the 2.3. What that means is the typical pass play is about 2.3 seconds it goes. When he gets outside the pocket, the second play just began. And so we want to make sure defensively you almost have to defend 2 plays. The first one, regular drop back play, quarterback gets flushed, he gets scrambled. Now the second play has to begin, and you have to plaster players and contain the QB. So I would bet, for most quarterbacks that have the ability to get out and move, there's some sacks that may not look like them because you're scrambling, you're moving out of bounds, but they count as that. But he's also effective, on some of those plays to get down the field. And so there's a balance with that, with any mobile quarterback, to say, hey, if I get outside the pocket, what's going to happen next.
And he's a guy, it's so funny that matchups make fights. He's the guy that always seems to have the Commanders figured out, and no matter who the coach is, like what's going on, like how do you make sure that he stays uncomfortable or, whatever it is?
Yeah, I can't speak to the past from here. I won't. But what I can say,
question.
Smart coach.
Yeah, I'm not going there. But I can say, what I can say is that I have had the chance to coach against him. And you're right that he has the ability to get outside the pocket and go. And I think that's also the sign of a good coach with Dave Ball, to say, how do we use players that can get outside? Because he is an excellent athlete and has a really strong arm. So it'll be up to our defense, have some disguises, have some different looks, have different ways to try to attack. And then when he does get in the open field, you better be able to tackle him, because those are the things that can extend the plays.
And Coach, we could talk to you X's and O's all day. But of course, like we said, this is your first home game in front of the fans. Can you give a message to this Commanders fan base for them to pull up for this first home game?
Yeah, well, I'd say for me and for all the players who are going into our coaches, players who are going into our first Commanders game, like, we feel the energy that the DMV has given towards us, and we can't wait to give it back to them, in terms of the physicality, the speed, and so I want every time that they come to see us play here at home that they're saying that's my crew, and the physicality, the speed, the way we attack, that's what I want them to see on a regular basis. So we'll deliver on that. And I want them to deliver on their end to make sure that any team that comes here, that we create an environment that, man, this is a really hard place to play. Not only do you have to deal with the players on the field, it's loud and it's just intense. And so if we can create that kind of energy together, we will be a problem.
Coach, can't wait to see you guys on that home field. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Now it's time for your Prime Player, brought to you by DC Prime, Loudoun's premier steakhouse. For dinner reservations or private dining, call 703-840-2099. Now, in our Week 1 matchup against the Buccaneers, Brian Robinson Jr. got his 8th career rushing touchdown, and he now has 13 total touchdowns in just 3 seasons. He put up 40 rushing yards and 49 receiving yards, using all of that versatility to help our offense. Coming up, Coach and Logan head into the film room to talk about what the Commanders will need to do for a Week 2 win. And afterwards, Logan and I preview our takes for the Commanders to get a W at our home opener. The Game Plan is presented by Maryland Lottery. Please play responsibly. It's time to go inside the film room, brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. Please play responsibly.
All right, Coach, got the Giants today, and one of the things that I wanted to do today was kind of look at some stuff that I liked from Tampa Bay, just energy, physicality, and things you can kind of use to build on going into this Giants game and get that W. So this is the first one, and first off, I love this by Tampa Bay, man. They're really putting you in like some high school kind of single wing conflict here. They got the motion out. We got to move this guy with the motion. We're creating a big void back here that's going to be tough, right? There's a lot of grass here. But I love the intentionality of our guy, Frankie Louvu, and how he attacks this blocker. I mean, Tristan Wirfs is one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, and to come and bring it like this is awesome to see.
Yeah, that's really getting back to your fundamentals. You're right that one of the biggest things in the NFL is like 3-by-1 going to end up as 3-by-1. But one of the things that Frankie's best, he can play on the end of the line. He can blitz. He's got physicality, and so to set the edge on a play like this, knowing that he has to shorten this corner so it doesn't stretch out and make it a harder play for everybody else. So now easier tackle to go inside. So such a cool play, strong, physical, and technique, man.
Yeah, and just being violent. And that's how he plays the game, which is so fun to watch. And having a guy like that just has that cultural element. Again, our guy Jamin, I know this isn't a perfect down for him, but kind of playing off this block, getting skinny, getting on the tackle. And again, that's all possible because Frankie's playing good physical football.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So love that down. And again, talking about pressure, taking advantage of stuff, but the other thing is ball is life, man. And we were at Atlanta, you talked about that all the time, and I haven't seen a lot of ball is life here in Washington, but I see Duran here coming out of the stack. Get going, big fella. We got some urgency here. And Coach, we got the ball out, we're getting ready to punch, we're winding that thing up, and almost, man.
We call those stack monsters, big slee stack, Land of the Lost, coming out of absolutely going. But what I love about it, he's thinking about it. He's looking for the leather. And as this one happens, usually this is where it happens, where the runner is thinking about Wags, he's thinking about Frankie, and he's not thinking about the stack monster. So we didn't get it on this one, but I do know that it's going to come, and those are the game-changing plays, Logan.
And people ask me all the time, how do you make a team better at turnovers? There's no magic formula.
No.
They got to start doing it, and to see guys doing it already week one is very exciting.
Yeah, and so it's got to be intentional, and this is one of those plays where the player's thinking about the other two, and the person out of the stack has got to come. So there will be moments for this one, and the next person will not be so fortunate.
That's exactly right. And it's always great having a guy like everyone talks about Bobby's intelligence and how he approaches the game mentally, but I've been really impressed with his physicality, and how he blitzes. And I love this design here. We're working to get one-on-ones. We got 3 one-on-ones here. We're trying to get lined up with the back. And in my life, I don't think of Bobby as being this tremendous blitzer, but here, man, he just absolutely brings it. Good uncoil, get that guy off his spot. We compress the pocket, which is fantastic.
You want to be able to hit somebody on the rise.
Yes.
Whether you're playing defensive line or blitzing, where you're not coming down, but try to hit them on the rise to get extension and get underneath people to go. But this is something he's worked really hard at. And if you can push the pocket inside, Logan, it allows the outside guys, if a quarterback drifts, if he goes higher or deeper in the pocket, then you want to come around the outside and try to pick the ball off
where's
the
that?
QB, right there.
Yeah.
So another op that we're trying to think about it. Baker did a nice job on that play of feeling the pressure come and making sure he had ball security, because when those one's outside and there's no chip, you've got to go win on the outside and give yourself a chance to make that play.
And it's nice to see Cleveland getting one too, because he just seems like a guy that people respect on the team.
The team really respects how he plays, his physicality. Every time we put it on, we know what we're going to get with him.
Which is fantastic. To have guys like that,
That's right.
And so this is one, again, defense did a great job, but I love this. Again, we're just going to get a little shallow cross here. Kind of a nothing route, but it's the extra effort here that makes this special. B-Rob obviously being physical. We've got Austin kind of leading the way here, grinding, fighting, scrapping, clawing for that extra effort. And then, is he going to get in? I think so. But, dude, Terry, where is he coming from, man?
Yes.
Left field, the strain. And I think that's what it is, man. To win a game in the NFL, you got to strain, you got to want it. And it's cool to see these guys wanting it.
Yeah, and everybody has that play in their playbook. So it's not how what you call, it's how you play it. And so finishing elements like Austin or Terry was the backside receiver, but tried to go get the middle field safety, knowing, that Brian's got a real shot to go and score. So that's brotherhood, that's competing, that's finishing, the end of the play. And the more we do that, Logan, the better we'll play.
Yeah, better you play, and again, you win games that are close. You win those close games. And this is another one I want to talk about too. I love this by Jaden Daniels, right? Look at the stripe. We're checking over here. We're pulling this hook player out, right? We're isolating our guy, Zach Ertz, in a one-on-one here with a linebacker. And Zach, this is what he's here for. Great job breaking leverage, and great job by Jaden here.
Yep, that's right. Because on certain routes, on a blitz that comes, where's the void? Where is the defense vulnerable? When you're adding another player into the mix, there's going to be some space, but you've got to be able to go nail it quickly. One of the things that I really admire about Jaden is that he's cool, he's calm, he knows that this pressure will be picked up, and now he can go let it rip. Waiting for the open moment. Zach broke the leverage, now you go deliver.
And again, that's a tight window throw. So love to see the physicality, the effort the guys are bringing, and I can't wait to see this thing continue to grow today against the Giants.
Yeah, we can't wait either, man.
Great to hear Coach and Logan getting in that film room. Now, you can gear up for game day with our Commanders coverage. At noon, B-Mitt, Santana, and myself share in-depth analysis on the Commanders and give you a live look at them warming up. And immediately after the game, we'll be back live to share our reactions to the game as well as giving you coach and player press conferences. You won't want to miss all of the great analysis and live looks on Facebook, Twitter, and the Commanders YouTube page. Stick around because Logan and I will be right back to give you our must-watch matchups. First, the New York Giants on the Game Plan. Welcome back. It's time for a competitive edge brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the Washington Commanders. Welcome back. It's time for a competitive edge brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the Washington Commanders. Now, here's a look at the upcoming competition for the Commanders. The Giants will be looking for a win in Washington after starting the season 0-1 for the 7th time in the last 8 years. The Commanders have played more games versus Giants than any other team in the NFL, and they'll be looking to get their 3rd consecutive home opener win this weekend. We have Commanders content going out every day this week. We have podcasts, shows, press conferences, and so much more. Be sure to subscribe to the Commanders YouTube page and turn on that bell so that you get notified every time we post. Now it's time for your ticket to a win presented by SeatGeek, your ticket to great Commanders seats. Logan, a ticket to a win. I feel like that's all about matchups, especially for this Week 2 matchup against the New York Giants. What matchup are you looking for?
Yeah, to me, I look at the Giants, look at who the most disruptive defensive player is, and it's definitely Dexter Lawrence. And he plays a true nose, so right over the center. And who's our center? Tyler Biadasz. And I think Tyler Biadasz actually had a really physical down and down out game as a pass protector and a run blocker. He's got his work cut out for him, but if he can win that matchup, it definitely helps us out in terms of winning this football game.
And Logan, for me, I'm a flipper, right? Daniel Jones was sacked 5 times in Week 1, the second most quarterback sacked last year in the NFL. How can we exploit that? How does our defense exploit that and get after Daniel
I think that's a great matchup, Brian. And one of the things about it is last week they did such a good job of pressuring the quarterback, right? And now they just got to finish. That's Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner blitzing, right? The front 4 getting after it, the rotational guys. I think that's a great matchup, and I definitely think this week we go from that 1 sack number to multiple sacks.
Logan, I feel like you got one more.
I do got one more, man. I'm really excited to watch Jaden Daniels, and maybe this isn't a matchup, but I want to see him grow from last week. Just how he can evolve as a passer from the pocket. He did a great job with his legs, but versus this Giants defense, I think he can dice him up. Looking forward to seeing it.
Cannot wait to see that, Commanders family. That is it for us on the Game Plan. We will see you at the game, our first game at home. Until then, see you next Sunday.